George. So after all that, here's a look at Group F. You saw that victory for Turkey earlier. Well, Portugal have now got their points on the board. Czechia and Georgia with nothing to show for their efforts after day one in the group. And I think George Hamilton probably hit the nail on the head there, Kenny. You know, Portugal, if they're going to go far in the tournament, you'd expect more from this. But maybe they just say, job done, opening round win, we got it. It was nervy, but they got it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's enough, to be honest with you. That's what they'll be saying, Jack. But I always look a little bit deeper down in terms of performance, kind of tactical setup. Am I seeing a system in place here in terms of how this Portuguese team are playing, which can take them through to a final, actually win this competition? In terms of personnel tonight and actually how Martinez set up the team, I think they're absolutely kind of way off. And I thought even the substitutions were kind of scratching our heads here a little. Wasn't exactly sure what he was thinking of doing. They came very late to substitute. Seemed very reluctant to make those substitutions. Eventually, obviously, it reaped dividends. And they got the second and third goal. But generally, in terms of overall performance, for me, more questions than answers after this.
I think a lot of people will feel that way, Karen. So many questions about this performance.
Yeah, and I think Martinez is the person who didn't cover himself in glory the most. They're waiting so long to make those substitutions when it was obvious at half-time that something needed to give. Giving someone 5 minutes to make an impact in the game, he's the one who got out of jail. You know, all the players will know that they need to up their game, but it has to come from him, and there didn't seem to be a real game plan there. They were hoping for the best, hoping that Ronaldo would come up with a header. So yeah, there's a lot of work to be done on the tactics board, I think, after this.
For him, we talked about this before the game, trying to get the right balance in the team. You look at all the stars he's had, and he'll say, you know, you look at Jota coming in, making an impact, and he'll be able to go back to the players and say, yeah, OK, it worked from his point of view. You know, the statistics will back it up.
Yeah, and the subs he made came on and they made an instant impact, but the timing of them, the players he took off, taking a centre-back off front or a centre-back, changing those positions, it wasn't that the fact that he made the subs, it was the positions that they were playing. He was playing a back three. Portugal dominated the game from start to finish. They needed an extra midfielder in there to go and push forward on. They needed to bring on Neto early on in the game, a winger taking Leo off, and he was probably the biggest threat down the left-hand side. Like, scratching your head thinking, I don't understand tactically where he's going with these. You know, they've come out with the win, they've got it in the end, but you're looking going, it was very obvious that they were missing just that control and influence in the middle of the park, and they could have flooded more bodies forward. Having Cancelo as your midfielder, that seemed crazy. Like, he was dropping in there he wasn't going to be that creative spark. He's great on the wings, he's great at putting balls in the box, but yeah, I think they absolutely got away with one there. They were a dominant team, they dominated possession. I think Czechia didn't really offer much at all, but got that goal. We talked about once it's 0-0, they're still in the game. They got a breakaway goal, and they pushed Portugal, even though Portugal should have been a lot better, I think.
Yeah, I think he's trying to be too clever, Martinez, in terms of how he sets up the team. You know, we're seeing kind of Cancelo playing that hybrid role, coming in and playing as an orthodox centre midfielder. Looking at Leo, he plays the central striker, split striker, playing on the left wing. This kind of fluidity which you're talking about. Trust me, players, you know, they have freedom to go and express themselves, etc. Look, but I didn't think there was any. That's okay if there's real cohesion in terms of what they're doing, and you're carrying a really attacking threat. And I don't think they did. I wasn't exactly sure what they were trying to do. And as a player, if I'm in a team and things aren't going right, and you're struggling a little bit to create opportunities, for me, then I'd like to drop back to some fixed patterns in terms of your attack and play. That you can go back to everybody understands, all right, lads, we know what we're doing. Two central strikers up to feet, people join in, let's give us a bit of width, let's kind of go back to basics a little bit. I don't think they have that, Portugal, in terms of Martinez, how he sets up the team. So it's all real no balance, cohesion to their play, and that's a real worry.
Is it going to be hard for him to change it now, though, because they won?
No, it shouldn't be, because you can still look at individual performances and think, right, today wasn't good enough, maybe someone else could do a better job. And I think in the game, Ronaldo wasn't the one I think that you would change. I think he looked a threat, he looked dangerous, but the balls in the box were there for him. He looked... Bernardo Silva, maybe he's another player you're looking at going, he wasn't producing today and that wasn't working. And, you know, even as a big name player, he's a big star, it looked he was very reluctant to take him off, whereas it was screaming out for Neto to come on that right side potentially and be an attacking threat and open them up and offer width. So yeah, I'm looking at it going, it just seems so wrong tactically. And with Portugal, what they have at their disposal, you should be able to make in-game changes quicker than what he did and really impact the match.
We spoke about Ronaldo being untouchable in terms of not taking Ronaldo off the pitch. That wasn't needed tonight because he always looked a threat. But I think there's other there. Bruno Fernandes for me could have come off. That was a big decision. He wasn't prepared to make. Bernardo Silva, even the two centre halves for me, Diaz and Pepe. When Inacio comes on, I think you have to sacrifice one of them. He wasn't prepared to do that either. He wasn't big enough to take that decision and take one of them off the pitch. So yeah, that would be a slight worry for me in terms of going forward, in terms of his kind of the dressing, the respect players have for him in terms of making those kind of big kind of game decisions when it's needed. Now, it hasn't hurt them tonight. They've gone on to win the game, but against the power team, when they came up against the likes of France and to a certain extent Germany, and maybe even England if they find their top form, they're going to get outpowered. They're going to get outpowered by those bigger, like physically imposing teams.
Yeah, well, you said it didn't hurt them tonight. Definitely breathe a sigh of relief because Portugal have got the job done tonight, and just about, Kenny, because even when you watch when the Czechs took the lead, I think it was Portugal who were a little bit rattled because this game did come against the run of play and suddenly they were growing into the game.
Yeah, it did. It was always going to come against the run of play if the Czechs scored. They were on the back foot for so often. But I think they're in that situation so often. I don't think they get overly worried by it. I think they're patient. They keep believing that an opportunity will present itself. But what a finish this was. I don't know if anybody watched the Romania game yesterday. It's an absolute carbon copy of the Romanian captain Stanciu's goal. Working it down the right-hand side, just played into him first time, inside of the right foot, just kind of controlled whip, kind of Beckham-esque into the far corner. Technically, it's an absolutely kind of brilliant strike. We spoke about those centre midfield players lacking a certain level of technical ability. Well, they've proved, Provorov definitely proved us wrong on that occasion. That was a brilliant strike. Came out of absolutely nowhere and really kind of rattled the Portuguese. The
difficulty is, Karen, they couldn't hold on to the lead because Portugal started scrapping and eventually they got the reward for it.
Yeah, and it was just so disappointing because they had been quite resolute. OK, they weren't offering much in attack, but they had been pretty solid at the start of that second half in holding Portugal out, and you're wondering where the goal was going to come from. Cross into the box as they had been doing. Mendes knocks it down. You have to be a bit disappointed with your keeper here, Stanek. OK, it's a good header back. But I think if he commits to catching that, yes, it might take him into his defender and he might, get a little knock. But to parry it and give the defender no chance and parry it straight out, it's a big mistake at that stage of the game.
Surely he's got to catch that.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's really, really poor. I think it's just a nervousness that you can't afford your goalkeeper to have in that situation, because you are going to come under pressure and there are going to be waves and you need him to stand up. And in the important moment, he handed Portugal to get out of jail card.
And I know it's hard to sit here on the couch and criticise someone like that, but you see someone coming at you, it's a major tournament, it's just grab hold of that ball, whatever you have to do.
Yeah, it was a poor. Even if it doesn't hit the defender, he's still palming it out into really kind of dangerous area. If he goes to catch, even if he doesn't quite catch, at least he keeps it in an area where he can go and grab it at a second attempt. And he's got a defender there to hold off the Portuguese forward. It was too easy. It's modern goalkeepers, though, Jack. You're very rarely in that position. You'll see a goalkeeper to commit to actually catch that ball. Clearly, is how they're being coached, but yeah, it came back to hunt them there.
Yeah, it certainly did, because I think everybody was just a little unhinged then. After it suddenly just became such a frantic finish, and then Portugal have this disallowed goal where it's, again, inches, and VAR moves quickly, to be fair.
Yeah, and VAR, the best thing about this was VAR, how quick they actually got to it, but great ball in. Ronaldo's on the end of it, knocks it down off the bar, and Jota reacts really well to touch in. But Ronaldo, you see, it's fine margins, but he is offside, and it's credit to VAR for actually being so quick to get this out and get the play back on again. Here we show how tight it is. He's just drifted in an offside position. But when they've put balls in the area, to be fair, the Czech did deal with these situations quite well. They dealt with headers and balls in, but this time it's actually a really good quality ball. Ronaldo's pulled off, and they're unfortunate that he's just drifted offside. But it was kind of showing they were getting more into it. But Portugal didn't do enough of that. Didn't put enough decent balls into the right areas to cause them problems, I don't think.
Yeah, but Ronaldo didn't have that first half, that kind of second striker, talking about how isolated he was. No surprise, just another body in there, regardless of whether it's Jota. Yeah. Although it's no surprise, Jota has that uncanny knack. Balls come into the box again, invariably he's in the right position. But again, just kind of not rocket science in terms of, how about we get a second striker up there alongside Ronaldo, maybe just to stretch that back three, and yeah, they got the reward.
I think that's the frustration, because you know that they can do it and you know it's going to happen. The thing is, in the next set of pictures that you're going to see, this is the major turning point, Kenny. And I think it happens at the other end. The Czech team are going to be really disappointed that it starts where there should have been a free kick given. It doesn't happen, and at the other end, you get the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, it's a bad miss. It's a bad miss from the referee. Even the linesman knows a bit further away, but that's a clear kind of body check. And it's high as well, Jackie. Should have been a free kick. Now, I know a lot happens after that, but the Czechs will be so disappointed that that decision wasn't given. You know, you could argue maybe a slight mistake, a bit of misfortune. There's a slight deflection initially when the cross comes into the box. I think that may be just unsighted. I think it's handstake to the defender, goes through his legs. An easy finish then after that for Conceição, but had a bit of sympathy for the Czechs in that respect, because like I said, just let down a little bit by the officials.
It's such a, for the Czechs, they got themselves back in the game. They were hanging on for a point which would have been massive in the context of this group, and you have to feel sympathy for them tonight.
I do feel sympathetic for them, but I don't think they really played well in the game. I think they scored a good goal, which, quality at the end of it, but in the first half I thought they're really poor. I genuinely thought they were awful. They didn't, not that you want them to outpass Portugal or keep the ball, but you have to show something. In the second half they showed a little bit more, but then Portugal were just off it, and I think the way the substitutes Portugal made, at the times they made, didn't really affect the game, and I think they were just hanging on. So it was probably a fair result of them, but yeah, to give away a goal like that, for the goalkeeper to make a mistake, for a Neto to come on in the 18th minute, and they probably should have had a free kick. You look back at the game yesterday and the fine margins with the touch of the ball, and then you think, why didn't they go back to check that? So
well, that's the thing, because if this was Ireland, Karen, and we were sitting here and you didn't get a foul for something back there, we'd be disgusted.
We'd be looking for compensation again of someone. So
But to be fair, when you're in a major tournament and you need something to go your way, and Stephen's right, maybe they weren't playing beautiful football, but they were in the game.
Yeah, the underdog's always going to need something to go in their favour, be it the opposition playing poorly or the referee picking up on these decisions. Unfortunately, they got one side of that, but they didn't get the referee picking that up. And there's all these rules about how far back do you go. That was a head injury, maybe a bit more care should have been taken to look into that. Obviously, it was a little bit off the ball. He probably overplayed it a little bit as well. So the referee, we have seen that from the referees. They have let play go, which, it is enjoyable to watch at times. But when you're on the receiving end of it, it stings a little bit.
Well, it gave Portugal the benefit of the doubt. And I think tonight, the biggest sigh of relief, as you guys said, is with Roberto Martinez because of that. You're waiting 92nd minute and suddenly the world looks perfect to them again. They're sitting, they're off and running. They're one of the tournament favourites. They won't care about tonight. They're up and running.
Well, they should care, and there's some experienced players in that dressing room, and they'll know that wasn't kind of good enough in terms of the general performance in possession and out possession. So it'll be very interesting going forward. I think it's too easy to gloss over that and say, well, yeah, we weren't at our best, but we got the job done. We kind of move on, but they can't move on with that level of performance because they're not going to move very far in this kind of competition. So some big decisions for Martinez to make in terms of personnel and tactical setup as well. And you wouldn't think the tactical setup should be something we're talking about one game into the competition. He's been with the team for a long period of time, a big build-up to this competition, friendlies. By the time you step onto the pitch tonight, everybody should know in terms of this is a tactical setup which we all understand, which suits the team, gives us really balance and cohesion to our play. Didn't see much of that tonight.
I'm not saying you should change in-game, but you look at Georgia, how they brought the centre-forward back into a left-wing position just to give them a bit of a tactical edge and help them out. That was in-game management, seeing where they could affect it. Portugal were missing in midfield and they were playing with wing-backs and three centre-backs that they didn't need. So you kind of think that was very obvious for us to say, listen, we're not coaches, we're not managers, but it was very obvious from the point of view to think, right, that's where they need to address it. And you see Neto, he puts him on the 89th minute. That's lucky that they've come up with that. You've given the guy 6 minutes to impact the game. Luckily he has, and Conceição, but you'd be bringing him on 70, 65 minutes so he can have a proper impact.
Well, Cristiano Ronaldo got the whole game, and that is one thing that you guys felt, that his influence was good, and we can have a look at some of his key moments here. But I guess generally, Karen, his performance overall tonight, did he warrant his position, and did he impress you guys enough to say that this is worth sticking with?
Yeah, he did, because he was the focal point of the attack. Before the game, we were talking about playmakers, your Silva and your Fernandes. I think that the setup really stifled them. I think there was too many players in front of them. There was no space for them to make those third-man run-ins in behind. Obviously, they're great playmakers from these deep-lying positions. You see Bernardo making a good pass there. But yeah, Ronaldo was the central figure, and he was unfortunate with the offside and the goal was disallowed, but he was worth his place more than a lot of other players, and there was a lot of other players who you would have taken off before him, certainly. And yeah, he was getting the shots off on target when they were few and far between. Obviously always going to be an aerial threat. He did put them under a lot of pressure. Again, free kick. I don't know why there was any discussion as to why who was going to take it. But
yeah.
I thought he would have gone for a power again. So it was like, even though he was good, it mirrored all of Portugal's play, and that everything lacked that little bit of conviction that was needed.
Has it put to bed the question about whether he should or shouldn't play?
Yeah, he was their threat today. And when they put the ball in the right areas, he was on the end of it. So, early on in the game, there was a few crosses went in. We're kind of, why wasn't he in there? But as soon as they actually put some decent balls in the box, put the decent delivery in, he was the one that was in the end. He was getting himself in the right position, pulling the trigger, good chances. Keepers pulled off a couple of good saves for him. He is a goal scorer. He's a threat. I think if you put the right players in around them as well, he can be even more effective.
Yeah, I think the big question is, not Ronaldo, I agree with everybody, is that the balance in midfield, that trio of Vitinho, Fernandes and Bernardo Silva, no future.
With Cancelo coming in, closing down the space.
There's no future in that. When you look at the French, in terms of the type of personnel, the criteria they put in centre mid, Tchouameni, Camavinga, Kante, the quite the power that they have. And power. This isn't just power. This is like technical, high-level technical ability as well. Even in Germany, Andrik, defensively minded, player in there alongside Toni Kroos. Declan Rice for England has to play, gives them that kind of anchor role, that kind of defensive solidity in there. They haven't got that Portugal. They have Paulina sat on the bench and Danilo. They have to come into the team. Should have been in the team tonight. Even Danilo, for me, might have to drop in at centre half, because if you persist with Pepe and Ruben Diaz for the majority of the tournament, he's going to have to protect them in front. So that, for me, that's crying out. But that should have been already in place. You would have thought walking onto the pitch tonight. So again, big question marks.
Yeah, I think it's just. They play Turkey next, Karen. Turkey are coming in on a massive high. And the group, I don't know, are Portugal under more pressure now to try to get a result in that next game because of the way that they've been talked up?
I think that they just plan to sail through this group
I think
stage.
that's probably what the narrative would have been coming in.
Yeah, and now that's been flipped a little bit. Obviously, Turkey still have defensive frailties, and they're completely different to how Czechia is set up today. They would struggle a little bit more with those crosses into the box and getting exposed in wide areas. But they'll also have learned a lot from watching this game today. And I think that they'll know that they're a little bit more potent in attack. They can keep the ball a little bit better. So I think that they'll be buoyed by both their own performance getting over the line in the way they did, and by what they saw from Portugal today, because they looked fragile. They look like a team that you can definitely frustrate and hit in the counter.
One last question on Czechia. How frail will they be after something like that tonight? Because when you're hanging on for a point and you think you have it, and suddenly now you're eyeing up the group thinking this thing was going to be wide open, Kenny. How do they recover after this?
Yeah, I don't think they'll I don't think they'll beat themselves up. Yeah, I really don't. I've always liked them in the previous kind of competition. Always remind me of a really kind of hard working, wear your heart on your sleeve, they pull for each other. You don't see too much backbite and people giving the ball away kind of cheaply, lack of technical ability, but they almost understand that. They don't be kind of calling each other out. They rally around each other. So there's a great kind of team spirit, it strikes me, and camaraderie in the group. So I think they'll actually bounce back quite quickly from this. I think they understand the limitations that they have. They accept that and they try and squeeze every ounce of the ability which they have.
Yeah, well, they play Georgia next in the group.